5-minute range? Or are you thinking just kind of, or just even stay in? So kind of right in. That's fine. That's comfortable. That works for me. That clock's about 5 minutes ahead. That one over there.
And some of these things I can probably realize there's a lot of nobody know. It's like you're kind of something very good. That's what I do, and I can yeah. No, we're hoping to come down. Yeah, your part
Oh yeah, so good. Just a good warning. That would be very interesting. Oh man, recorded forever.
Yeah. What's Jimmy's last name?
Bettinger, BTCINGER.
That's right.
It's my first time.
Are you saying this whole row?
Yeah.
Yes. The camera Mine's already on.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't go to my home one, don't worry.
use on probably it's $1,000.
And like so that I think it's time there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Outlook Calendar Development Sharing Meeting presented by me, Matt Hush, and Al Brunkow, Client Services Manager. We're going to be going over Microsoft Outlook, particularly the calendar today, which is a powerful mail and organizational tool. One thing I've noticed about using Outlook and all the Microsoft apps, including the calendar, is that there's a wide variety of ways to access it. You've got the desktop clients, Office 2016 for a lot of you, Office 2019 if you've had it upgraded, versus accessing it through the hub, the browser client, which is a completely different view. You've also got tablets, mobile phones. They've all got various capabilities and interfaces. They all work a little differently. I think the best way to get comfortable with your phone or your tablet, your iPad, is just to download it and start playing around with it. You've used it on your desktop most likely. You've kind of prepared a basic calendar. You've got email inboxes. Like I say, the best way to kind of get used to how many different platforms Microsoft has adapted that to is just to try each one. What can Outlook Calendar do for me? We're going to be going over creating class schedules today. That's one particular thing that most of you will want to create. Department schedules can be integrated with the availability of department staff available to program directors, deans, students if you choose to share it. There's a lot of ways to do that. I know Canvas has its own integrated calendar. I think we're going to be using Outlook as something that's kind of shared across platforms. Everybody has access to Office 365. Everybody can use Outlook as long as you're a student, staff, or faculty here at Southeast. So it's a powerful tool that everyone has available, and we're trying to get people used to accessing it. Just going onto the hub and clicking the Microsoft Office 365 button, I mean, you can get into any web version or the web versions of all the apps just from there. A few definitions. Appointment is a scheduled block of time that only involves yourself. These hours will be blocked off on your schedule. I think event classification is another form of appointment. It's just a little more generic. Once you set these times, they will be blocked off. They will be visible as however you set them. Busy, away from your desk, on your calendar itself. Meetings, that's a little bit different. That's an activity that involves others during a block time period. It's a little more difficult to set up depending on how many people you've got, but there is a scheduling assistant available that will cover that. Once your program schedule and department schedules are integrated, you'll actually be able to see most of the people that you're likely to be scheduling the meeting with and whether they're available during the block times you're trying to select. Demo time. We're going to go over creating Outlook events now. I'm going to start in my mail view. What I like to do is split the window. Just hover over calendar, right click, open a new window. That way you don't have to close out of one to go to the other. Let's start with just my own calendar. Let's add IT status. We're just going to go around kind of how you can view things in the calendar. You can get as specific as you want. Clearly the day view with the date on top. You can scroll through the dates. You can also use use the mouse for that. The day view gives you the most detail, as you can see, but obviously it doesn't give you a good view of the entire week. We can look in work week, which I have set as Monday through Friday, which is a little more detail, and you can see it's pretty easy to navigate through these. If you look at the calendars that I've got on the left, I can pick a week, scroll through, going to the full week just includes Saturday and Sunday basically, which they're grayed out. I can still add appointments to those. And of course the month view, I find this the most useful most of the time. You can also add as many calendars as you want, but of course when you add, the more you add, the more busy the screen gets. Now this is a 24-inch monitor. Look at a 13-inch tablet screen or laptop screen, and particularly a phone screen. And phones, my phone will not let me look at 3 calendars. It'll let me look at 1, but I can integrate all the calendars into one view, which of course, once again, is fairly busy. One thing I'd like to go over, let's swipe these over a little bit. You can kind of minimize one without having to take it off. I really like that. You can actually go all the way down to where you're basically viewing one, and in this case, they're combined. See how these 2 calendars, those events are on this view. You can swipe it back out for a full view. Let's simplify it a little bit. You go down to 1 calendar. And I just do that with my calendars tab over here. I'm going to drop the IT status. I'm going to drop the IT status, drop the office and class hours. Now I've just got my one basic calendar. One thing I want to show you is reader view. Under view, reading pane on the right. We're going to that doesn't so big, but that way, if you click something, you can see the entire event on the right. You can get a version of it. If you hover over it, it'll pull out a little window, but this is nice to get some more detail. Let's look at something that actually. Yeah. If you've added a file or you've added more detailed instructions, the reader view is a pretty nice way to set it. Go back off that view. What we're going to do now is start by creating a new calendar. Going to go under Home, Open Calendar, create new blank calendar. I'm going to save it in Calendar as far as folders, and I'm going to just name it, say, Class Schedules. Now that I've created, you'll see it over here under my calendars. Yeah. Let's try that. There it is. I just didn't give it enough time. Sorry about that. All right, so we know that the fall term is going to start, and this is just an example, of course, but we know that the fall term is going to start on August 26th. One thing I like to say, I'm off in the weeds here in March of 2019. If I just hit today on the top bar there, it'll bring me back to the 19th or whatever day I'm on, making it a little easier to kind of get centered. Now, there's a lot of ways you can double click on a day, right click, make something, and of course you can use the buttons up top here. What I'm going to do is right click. I'm going to make a new recurring event. Now we're going to just use this as an example class. Let's say I've got a class that starts at 8 a.m. Duration 2 hours. Now I get to pick which days in the weekly recurrence pattern view that I want to do occur on. Let's just say that this is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. I also can end after a certain number of occurrences, or in this case, I know that the term ends on December 19th, so I'll just pull up that month, or pull up the month, November, December, pick the 19th, and it's just that simple as far as the timing. Now, of course, I can flesh it out a little bit as far as name. This will be, let's say, please remember that when you're creating an event, you can cut and paste text, you can add files, you can add Outlook items. In this case, we'll look at the tab. I'm going to insert an Outlook item. Say there's an email that you want that you sent out to the class, such as the Title 19 course reminder. Okay, and there it is.
And remember, that gets added to every entry on your calendar. So if this is something you don't want on every scheduled time, then you wouldn't want to do this. But if you wanted to put syllabus on every one, you could.
Exactly. Okay, so once I've got this ready to go, I need to go back to the series view, save and close, and you can see that this has been created all the way out to.
Could you do the returning event and go back and just edit the first one and add that, so it would just be?
Absolutely.
Yes, great question. He's going to show you that question.
Yes, you can see this one I just created goes out till December 19th, but see, let's look at that first one. Yeah, I could have opened the first one. As soon as you try to open an event in a series, it's going to ask you if you want to do this action to the entire series or just this one. So it makes it pretty clear and gives you that choice. In this case, no. Let's try that again. We're going to do just this one. We'll put that there. And we could add a note. Simple as. You can also, once you've created an item in the calendar, it's fairly flexible. Say everybody decided that Friday the 30th wasn't going to work. You can drag it over to Thursday the 29th, and it's going to ask you the same thing. If you're doing it to all the events or just this one series, in this case, we just want to change that one. I don't think it's completed yet. You can also move them to another calendar. Let's open side by side. Now, if I drag something to another calendar, it just copies it. But you can just copy a selected occurrence in that case. You probably won't be doing this with a recurring event like that as often. All right, moving on. Let's get rid of this one. Let's create on this calendar just a single event. We'll do it on, say, September 10th. Do it as a new appointment. Pretty much put anything you want on that. That's an open date. You can see we've created just a single event there. Let's go back to the work week view. See if we can find that event we created. You can lengthen an event as long as you want up to and past your working hours just by dragging that. And of course you can move it within views to a different day. So they make it pretty flexible. Another thing I want to show you is a multi-day event. This is handled a little different. All-day event. And we can pick a start date. Let's say it's the week of September 16th, going till the end of the week. And this is that. Going back to month view, you can see that we've created an all-day event that isn't really affecting your other events or even interacting with them that much, but it's more of a reminder to you that's also going on. So it's very flexible and as far as keeping track of whatever you want, integrating it into one easy to access place.
New items.
I went to new items. You can create anything and everything starting with the new items. In fact, they've even got more tasks, which is kind of a general one. We won't go into too deeply into some of those. You can just change, let's see, a recurring meeting, yeah. So a lot of it kind of flashes back on another part of it. You can change a meeting into an all-day event too. So there's a lot of overlap as far as how you want to select things. If you're creating just a single day event and then you start adding people to it, well, Outlook will just reclassify it as a meeting. So basically anything that gets more than one person is going to be classified as a meeting. Okay, so going back to that. One thing you can do is change options in your calendar. Oh, yes, go ahead.
So, this is all new to me, so would you recommend that you go new items for appointments or click on the day?
Well, it depends.
Click on the day.
If you were talking about a class,
It'd be a class.
I would just do a recurring appointment or a
Under
recurring
new
event.
items?
I'm sorry, it was, yeah, under new items.
Okay.
You can go new items.
And then appointment.
Oh, lost my recurring. That's it, I'm
Oh, okay,
sorry.
that's
It's under
more
recurring
items?
event, yes. New items, more items, recurring event. Yes.
And do you recommend having separate calendars for classes versus meetings, or have everything on the same calendar?
That's a great question. We go over that in a little more detail. I recommend, to start though, I'd say I recommend having a personal calendar for your own appointments, mostly separate from what you're going to publish, either by sharing or with the rest of your department. What that will do then is it'll still block out those times, but you don't want to publish your own personal times in with a group calendar and then have to worry about permissions for individual events, keeping them private. We'll go into a little more detail with that though. One thing I wanted to cover is there's quite a few options you can change in a calendar. If you hit this dialog box here, it pulls out the options. You can see that I've got my own work week set as 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. You know, that will change in a week or two, or I think later this week. You can set your reminders for events. Mine are set at 15 minutes, but you can give a reminder much earlier. There's just quite a few. It is a powerful program, and it's very configurable. Some of these things are going to be best served by just opening them up and kind of taking a look. Where'd you get to that? That was under the arrange view. There's multiple ways to get to that too. This is probably the easiest one. Is Outlook options. Once you're in here, you can change options for anything. But when you're in the calendar, of course, calendar, like most Outlook apps, has the ribbon. You see, if I scroll my mouse wheel, you can see how what I've got access to changes along the top. That's very similar to the other Microsoft major applications. But to answer your question again, under arrangement, if you're in the calendar view, it'll automatically pull up this calendar options. And, you're definitely, I know that for faculty, work weeks are not as necessarily regular as they are for staff at times, but it's something you'll probably want to set early on. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
So if you're all online and according to our contract, all we have to do is put the classes that we're teaching because
time will vary online versus, where do we put those?
I would put them in your class schedule, in your main calendar. Al, did we said that we were keeping that out of a personal calendar, but putting it in a class
There are two
calendar,
schools
right?
of thought on your calendars. Either you have your personal calendar that you add your class schedules to, like Matt did here on this separate calendar. But you can put all those scheduled class times on your personal calendar, but then all your private events, anytime you share your calendar, those private events are also shared. So if you want to prevent people from seeing your private events on your personal calendar, you would have to go ahead and make them private. There's a note, bring up a particular item on there and show them how you can set something private. Even if you share something, it will show up as just a block of time that you're away, but we can go ahead and I'm never sure if that's, I think that's, so. Go ahead and open that one. Here's under options. We'll put this option. Under options, where is it? I think it's under. Just expand that out, hit that arrow. Right there. No. Honestly, there's something under there.
Let's look at my.
It says private.
Let's take a look at it. I think it might work.
Maybe it's under your personal calendar. It might be under your personal calendar only.
There, it's on the right, on the very right.
Yep, there it is.
There.
Yeah, this only applies to your personal calendar. Forgot about that. And we're on a shared calendar for a separate calendar. So there you can mark that event as private. Nobody can see what's inside the event, no matter what you give them for permissions. It just sees on there. They view it on your calendar as a blocked out time where you have something going on. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought, which is probably the route I'd recommend you going, is that you create a separate calendar and call it whatever you want, like Matt did in his demonstration. And then you share that calendar with your dean or your coworkers. And then you can give them the permissions to view only or be able to edit that calendar as well after you share it. Does that answer your question? Yes.
What was the difference between
Really nothing. Same thing.
Yes.
They mix and match those.
Oh,
terms.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we create a new calendar that's private if we already have our?
Yes. Yeah, you can create as many calendars as you want. So if you have an exercise schedule that you want to keep track of that just in a calendar by itself, or a walk the dog schedule, whatever the case may be, those could be separate calendars. And you can share that with other people if you want to, or nobody at all. Yes.
So step by step, how do we create a separate calendar we can share with our team?
Okay. Matt?
We'll do that. All right.
So the way we create a calendar, you can do it from the open calendar icon up there. So name it what you want. So, Mary's class.
There we go. Who we created,
And that'll appear in your list of calendars. And then you would go through whatever class schedules you have, whether you set them up as a recurring, or you can go into each individual a day and put in your class if you want to. Recurring is pretty slick, especially if you have Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes or Tuesday.
Can we take items from an existing calendar and drop them?
Yes, you should be able to drag them over and paste them in, yes. In fact, when you're going from one calendar to the other, by default, it doesn't do a copy, it doesn't do a move.
If you're teaching more than one course, can you make the color look different?
Yes, you can make each event different colors. Do a right click on there, and you assign a color to each event sequence. So you can categorize them. And you can name your categories whatever you want to name them right there. It's giving you a choice. Instead of calling it blue category, you can call it, English 101. Yes.
So, Al, so if we only want to do one calendar, it's simple for us. And we want to set something to private, like we're walking our dog. And so we click on the appointment that we have for walking our dog in private.
That's good. Yeah, right click, private, I don't know, it's right click, personal. Yeah, you can, right there it is, right click in private, or you get it out of the ribbon.
So then how do you know if it actually sets to private?
As you view it, there'll be a little lock. Bring up the day schedule. Once you make it private on that, why don't you bring up just the day so it takes a little bit bigger view of it. So the question was, once you make it private, how can you see that it's private? And you should be able to see that. See that little lock there, lower right there corner? That's the private indication. So if you did share your calendar with me and I looked at your calendar, I'd see just that block of time with nothing there. I know you were gone that period of time, but I couldn't tell what you were doing or what notes you had in there.
And of course, that's only going to be something to worry about on a shared calendar. If you make a calendar and share it with no one, no, but you do not have to worry about the privacy settings. And you have to choose to share. You'll be set up with a department one, most likely from your program director, that is going to be shared, but you can always create one for yourself.
Okay, so Terry created a calendar for an event on there. How does he share that with his team?
Okay.
I had a question.
Yes.
How do you print a calendar in the week and month format? Dusty.
All you have to do is press Control P, or alternatively, you can go into File, Print. It gives you 6 different options between daily, weekly calendar, monthly, and trifold. I'm going to go ahead and show a few examples since this seems to be a good time to do that.
So those are 3 questions. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're running a little short. So we're within 12 minutes now.
Why don't you show them how to share that calendar first? What we do is prayer.
Can do.
We're on that subject.
I'm just on mine now. Okay. To share a calendar, I like to just right-click on the calendar label, go down to Share. Now, you can email a calendar to someone, but it's important to remember that this just emails a copy that will not be updated. It is not sharing in a sense that they will be able to see your updates or follow your calendar as it develops or indefinitely. Emailing, it just sends a basically one-time snapshot of your calendar. To share. Now you can kind of fill out via the Southeast email servers, pull up these names for you pretty handily, just who you want to share it with. Of course, you can also check this box to ask for permission to view their calendar, which in most cases you're probably going to want them to reciprocate. We'll leave it unchecked for now. This is an important detail to set. In this first sharing, you get to choose whether they can see your availability only, which will not actually show any details of any events. You can choose limited details, which includes the availability and subjects only, or you can choose full details, which is everything written and attached to that event when you're sharing. And then all you have to do is hit the send button, yes, and each of those recipients will receive an email invitation to open your calendar, and they can choose to reciprocate.
Yeah, and once the recipient gets that email, they click on it, it's auto-ship, assuming they have Outlook open, it automatically adds that to their list of calendars, and they see it. That's it.
One thing I'd like to cover is setting up a meeting. I don't believe we've set a new meeting yet. Let's close. Meeting setup similar to sharing. In this first button, I can generally it'll populate with people that you email the most. So I can set it up with my bosses, my colleagues. Set subject, of course. Location. I can also attach using the insert button, just like any other event. I can attach files, random book, and share or add as copy, which gets a little bit technical, but I'm just going to add as a copy. One thing I did want to, where's the scheduling system? Right there. Right? This is a very nice tool. Go back to the appointment view. Say I've set this up for Monday the 22nd. Well, say Friday the 30th. It's going to be a 3-hour meeting in the morning, and I go into Scheduling Assistant. What it will do is pull up that day, populate it with the people that I added to the email, and then in this blued out window, it's showing what I've entered as kind of a first attempt at the meeting. But you can see that there's conflicting availabilities. I can drag the start, I can drag the finish, or I can pick a different day, which seems likely in this case. But the scheduling assistant is very helpful in these cases to kind of see where the rest of your department's at, what their availability is, and whether that day is even going to work.
And one thing you note here is if people haven't shared their calendar with you, this still works. So by default, Scheduling Assistant looks at everybody's calendar and can tell when you have blocked out time on your calendar. So this doesn't rely on somebody having their calendar shared with you. So you can always go in there and look at that. And in this case, Matt sees my stuff there on that line. None of the others have anything going on at all.
Yeah, so I'd probably put it right here.
But the reason my subject shows up is I have shared my calendar with Matt. So he has permissions to see my events. Otherwise, those should show up just as blocks, blue blocks that are scheduled. So right there, come back, right there. So you can see Mary Hiddle has not shared her calendar with Matt, and it shows that those are busy times for her schedule. The gray areas, when Matt was telling you that you can configure Outlook to reflect your days that you work, your hours that you work, the gray times are the times that you're not, or that you're scheduled to be off of work.
I'm just pressing the tab button. If it populates with the email that you want, all you have to do is press the tab button. I think we covered the meetings pretty well. Let's go ahead.
With the required versus optional meetings, you said that per person, or you have to add it.
You're asking if with the required meetings that you could set them, you can choose different people for the required or optional? Yes, yes you can.
Click on the 2 there. That's where the option comes up. Bring up that meeting again. That's where you can set up the optional.
Yeah, you can absolutely put different people in the required and optional tabs. I wanted to cover the print question real quick.
They're set up.
Okay. In the calendar view, all you have to do is press Control P, and it gives you several styles. It gives you a preview, daily, weekly agenda, weekly calendar, monthly. I printed a few of those out. One thing you want to watch is, if you print daily style for 3 months, you're probably going to want to cancel that job or go get a ream of paper. Some of these can be pretty lengthy, but I will put a couple examples out here. Hold on just a moment. Okay, this one here is just a 1 month monthly view. Covers as much detail as it can fit in. It does get kind of busy. If you need to go with a weekly agenda, here's a good example. This is July 29th to September 1st. And as you would imagine, it ended up being 4 sheets. The last option that I actually printed out was a calendar details style. This is pretty. There's a lot to this. See, it basically will produce everything that you've got in your details, event by event, day by day. So it's a powerful tool, but you do want to be a little careful with the printing. You can easily get a pretty large print file if you're not careful with that. Let's go back and see. I think we had a few notes we were going to go over quick, or did you want to take some questions, Al?
Yeah, probably questions, and then
Sure.
We do want to cover multimedia real quick before we're done. So, any other burning questions about calendars? And professional development wanted us to follow up in a month's time or so and do another presentation on this type of subject matter, whether it's Outlook, calendaring, anything you want. So we welcome your feedback if you want more in depth. If you want to work with the help desk one-on-one, we can also do that. But nonetheless, we are planning a follow-up to this after you get rolling. But that was one of the subjects that we were told is that the faculty are going to create calendars and share them with their dean. And so if you want help doing that, we're happy to help. Whether it's remote, come to your workstation and help you any way possible.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to have Joseph go over the multimedia card next, I believe. All right, how does this sound, Bang?
All right, my name is Joseph Hunter. I'm an information systems technician here on the Lincoln campus. And for the last 20 minutes or so of this meeting, we wanted to just go over some of the basics of the media cards. A lot of this may be a review, but hopefully we find a few things that are new. This is going to be a pretty brief overview, so we won't go into too much detail on any one subject. So if you have any questions afterwards, kind of like with Matt, feel free to contact us at the help desk. But what we'll be hitting on, first and foremost, is media card functionality, what the media card's capable of. We'll go over connecting a laptop, which is something we've seen is a little bit more in demand as faculty has been getting laptops. We'll go over the types of projectors we have across the campuses, and then just some basic troubleshooting that you can do in the classroom. So for the media cart functionality, first, just to go over what's getting outputted, the media cart and every device is going to go out to the monitor that's on the desk and the projector, and those two video outputs will always be the same. So what students see on the projector is going to be the exact same as what you see on the monitor. There's also going to be a set of speakers on the desk. Some classrooms have speakers in the ceiling, but those are few and far between. Mostly you're going to be seeing the ones here on the desk. In terms of what can be used with the media cart, there's a computer that's mounted underneath the media cart. That's going to be the most common use we see in the classroom. Yeah. Yes. And I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. No, you're fine. So yeah, we have the computer, which is what gets used probably 90% of the time. We have the document camera, which is going to sit on top of the desk. And then you have the ability to connect a laptop to it as well. The input is going to be changed by this HDMI switch that's mounted underneath the media cart and just next to the computer. This here on the right is actually just a physical button that cycles through 4 different inputs. And you can see here what each input controls, going from a laptop to the media cart computer, to another laptop input, and to the document camera. The media cart computer is just going to function like every other computer on campus. You would log in with your SCC credentials. It'll give you access to your N drive, your O drive, Canvas, and anything else you may need on the internet. And then one of the benefits of using this computer is the presentation remote, which allows you to remotely control PowerPoint without having to walk back over to the desk. This remote is in every one of the rooms, and if you're using, say, a laptop, you would not be able to use this remote along with it. The document camera functions kind of like an old overhead projector, except a digital version of it. It has an articulating arm, so you can move it kind of up and down to frame the picture a little better. It has zoom capabilities. It also has a light you can use to illuminate it a little more if it's a little dark. The document camera can be used on that input 4 that I mentioned previously, but there's also on every multimedia computer the Sphere 2 software. That's what Matt was using earlier during his presentation, which allows you to use the document camera without having to change inputs. A lot of instructors seem to like this because it's a little faster than having to hit that select button to go through the different options. In terms of laptop connectivity, we provide 2 different ways of connecting a laptop. That top port here is an HDMI port. You may be familiar with that from your TVs at home. It's a pretty common standard that's come out in the last few years. Every one of these computers, or every one of these cards does have that HDMI input. The bottom one is an older standard. It's called VGA. We still have some faculty laptops that have a VGA connector on it, but the most recent ones over the past few years do not. As a result, some of the newer media cards may not have the VGA functionality on there, but if they do, that is an option to use your laptop in the classroom. To go into a little more detail on connecting the laptop, the HDMI input is going to be on that selector switch. It's to the left here, and you can just use that select button to go to input 1, and that will bring up whatever's on your laptop. And that HDMI input will also transmit sound. So whatever sound's coming out of your laptop, if it's a video or YouTube, that'll come through the sound on the speakers as well. The one on the right here, this cable that sometimes gets tucked up in the side of the media card, and it's actually 2 cables. The blue part is that VGA port, and then down here is an audio port so that you plug into the headphone jack. And that's what Al just lifted up there. Sometimes that can get a little hidden in the media cart, so if you're having problems finding it, let the help desk know and we can come take a look. In terms of projectors, there are two main kinds of projectors that we use across the campuses. A traditional projector is like the one here in this room. It's going to be ceiling mounted. It has no interactive functionality. You just turn it on and it will project onto a screen. That's kind of what everybody is used to. The other more exciting kind of projector is the interactive projector. These are what we've started to transition to in a lot of classrooms. It is mounted on the wall above the whiteboard and gives interactive functionality using pens. The pens I'll show you in just a second, but the two kinds of functionality it provides are annotation mode, which allows you to draw on the whiteboard digitally, highlight. It's kind of nice to call things out. But then there's also a computer control mode where you can actually use one of the pens as a mouse to navigate the computer. The pens are stored in this little white case that's usually attached magnetically to the whiteboard. If you open it up, there'll be two pens inside. Both of those can be used to control the interactive projector. One call out is those are battery powered pens and sometimes the batteries die. Every one of the rooms that has these pens also has a rechargeable battery charger plugged into the wall near the whiteboard. That can be used to recharge the batteries. You can also contact help desk and we can get that done for you as well. Just to go over some of the functionality of that interactive projector, we actually have a video used by the manufacturer of the projectors that does a great job going over everything it's capable of. This is about 4 minutes long. And it's muted.
Interactive mode is the mode used for annotating and controlling content on your computer desktop from your BrightLink projector. You can use the pen as a writing instrument to make notes over displayed content, such as PowerPoint presentations, websites, and PDF documents. The pen can also be used as a mouse for tasks such as opening and closing applications and navigating and scrolling. In short, most everything you can do on your computer with your mouse, you can now do with your interactive pen on the display from your BrightLink projector. To use interactive mode, click on the computer screen icon on the control toolbar. The drawing toolbar will appear at the side of the projected image. The drawing toolbar allows you to toggle back and forth between a pen and mouse, draw shapes, create text boxes, select objects, choose pens and highlighters for drawing, and various erasers for removing digital ink or clearing the screen. Pick up the pen and touch the mouse icon at the top of the drawing toolbar. The icon will turn blue when selected. Once you have selected the mouse, you can use the pen to open programs, select objects, and more. For example, if you wish to open your web browser, simply click on the icon with your pen. Once opened, you can use your pen to click on links as you normally would with your mouse. With the drawing toolbar, you can also draw shapes. By clicking on the shapes icon, you will have the ability to select line thickness, line color, as well as if the shape is an outline or fill. Once you've selected the desired attributes, you simply need to put the pen tip to the board and drag it across the board to create the shape. You can also use the pen to insert text on your board. When you touch the text icon, you will have the ability to drag the pen across the board, creating a text box. After you create the text box, the on-screen keyboard will appear, allowing you to type in text with the interactive pen. Easy Interactive Tools also has a cursor tool for selecting objects. Click on the arrow, and then you can select the text box you just made and move the text where you would like on the screen. You can select a pen tool by clicking on the pen icon. It will allow you to select line thickness as well as colors. The lines you draw with the pen tool will be opaque. In a similar way, you can select the highlighter tool. It too allows you to select line thickness and color. The highlighter pen allows you to draw over text or objects, drawing attention to them without fully obscuring them. There are also quick pen tools that allow you to select a black, red, or blue pen without having to use the pen tool drop-downs. Simply select the color you wish to use and the thin line by selecting the small dot on the left, or a thick line by choosing the large dot on the right of the icon. To erase any ink annotations, you can use the eraser tool. Similar to the pen, you can use the small dot on the left for a thin eraser and the large dot on the right for a large eraser. To erase all the ink annotations at once, you can select the Erase All icon. You can choose to have the toolbar showing at all times, or to hide once you begin writing. The lock icon toggles back and forth between tilted or unlocked, and flat, which makes the toolbar hide once you begin writing. The command toolbar also allows you to save files. Simply select the Save icon. When you do, a Save dialog box will open along with an on-screen keyboard that is part of your operating system. In the dialog box, you may select the type of files to save, such as PDF, JPEG, bitmap, PNG, or EIT files. Using the on-screen keyboard, you can key in the name of the file you wish to use and save to your hard drive.
So that went over a lot of content in a few minutes, but I think it just provides a pretty good overview of what that interactive projector is capable of. And I know, just speaking personally, I think it's probably the coolest thing we have in the classrooms right now. Especially I know going back to when I was a student here, seeing somebody be able to navigate PowerPoint, but then also switch to drawing on the screen seamlessly without having to walk away from the board is pretty cool. But finally, to wrap up, just some basic troubleshooting that can be done in the classroom. If you're experiencing no video, the first thing would be to check that HDMI switch on the bottom of the media card and just make sure that's on the input that you want it to be projecting. You can also check the video port on the wall if you're getting video on the monitor but not on the projector. In this picture here, you can see that HDMI video cord is unplugged from where it needs to be. We see that sometimes with that style of cord, and actually are in the process of updating all of the classrooms to something that's more secure, that doesn't fall out nearly as much. So the wall plate may look a little bit different, but that's just one thing you can keep an eye out for. Also just verify that the monitor and the projector are on. There'll be indicator lights showing that they're on. The projector usually has a fan going, so there'll be a little bit of noise as well. And then finally, there usually is not a reason to change the input on the projector because it's always going to be coming from the media card, but sometimes it inadvertently gets switched. If that does, there's a button labeled Source Search on the projector remote, and that will cycle through everything to go back to the media card. If you're experiencing no sound, there's going to be volume on the computer in the lower right-hand corner next to the time. You just want to make sure that's not muted or turned down all the way. But then there's also a physical remote located on the media card next to the speakers. This has a physical on and off switch as well as a volume control knob on the side. And that would be the other thing to check because that can also sometimes get changed. The big thing we want to take away from this is not to alter any of the cabling under the media card. This is set up in a specific way, and if it's changed, that can cause problems for the next instructor. So if any of those basic troubleshooting doesn't work, or if you're not comfortable doing that, please call the help desk and we can have a technician come down immediately. Are there any questions? Yeah.
I have a computer that I use a lot in our lab, and if it's, let's say it's just logged off, not shut off. Like, I cannot get it to come up. Like, I'll jiggle the mouse or hit the enter button. You can see that it's in the save mode, but nothing will come up. So it seems like eternity And it's pretty frustrating, and it's on the right source, monitors green on, and then all this, I'll try typing, and like, it just seems like it's out of mind. What would you recommend I do with that?
So it eventually comes up, but it's just taking a while?
Yeah, it seems like it just doesn't want to do what I want it to do. Right?
Yeah.
But eventually it'll seem like it's going to work.
That may be something we'd have to look into a little further, because it
A lot.
should come up within about 10, 15, possibly 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But we can definitely take a look and see.
Sometimes they take 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
E30 is really bad.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have computers like that where they're taking an extraordinarily long time to come up, please let us know so we can go take a look, because it could be something with the computer settings itself. Are there any other questions?
With the interactive board, can you save the annotation in PowerPoint slides?
Yes. You wouldn't be able to save directly into PowerPoint, but you could save that as an image. And when you're using that annotation mode, in the upper right, or not upper right, but just in the upper middle, there's going to be a save icon. And that will let you save it onto the computer, and then you can insert that image file into a PowerPoint. All right. I thought I was, yeah.
Tell me a little more about the Sphere 2 software. How do you get that?
Sure. So his question was about the Sphere 2 software, which is used with the document camera. That's actually going to be available on the desktop of every computer that has a media card. It's going to be a red icon that kind of looks like an S. I could actually show that here. It's going to be this one right here. And then it has some additional functionality, but for the most part, it's just double click it to open up, and it will immediately launch into this kind of a view that just shows whatever the document camera is projecting.
And you can still have your PowerPoint up at the same time?
Yes. That's what we see a lot of instructors like about the Sphere 2 software, is instead of having to hit that selector switch underneath the card, you can just go back and forth and shift tab. Yeah, or you can do the tab in between. If you do Alt-Tab, they can go back and forth. So that saves some time considering between waiting.
There are some short throw projectors that are mounted on the wall that are not interactive, correct?
Actually, I was told by Terry that they are all interactive if they're short.
I think they changed some of those to non-interactive.
Yeah.
The majority of them are.
So I would be interested in using that annotative whiteboard feature. I might special one-on-one tutorial on that.
We can definitely arrange that.
So who do I contact?
You can contact the help desk either by phone, email. There's a live chat functionality on the help desk website, or we also have a walk-up help desk in the LRC here on the Lincoln campus. So any one of those methods would work, and we can get a time scheduled to come visit with you. All right, if there are no other questions, thanks for your time and have a great afternoon.
One picture, I sit on one side. We don't know what day or time to talk. I don't. But it's so many hours.
Yeah.
So I have to use this room for one of my classes, and I've had twice now, just different times, where I've had a speaker come and pull the PowerPoint. And in the adjacent room, I was using a PowerPoint, and their PowerPoint was showing up in my classroom.